Welcome to part 6 of the 2023 NFL Draft in Review. Today we are going to be looking at the 2023 Baltimore Ravens class. And I feel it bears noting, as I got a couple comments last time, I don't expect to be right 100% of the time. If I miss, I miss. I'll own it when I come back to it. So just chill out a little bit. But as we proceed now into the Ravens class, we are starting obviously with wide receiver Zay Flowers. And before we watch anything, look at his stat line from college, I'm going to right off the bat lay out my general concern here. The Ravens, in my opinion, probably should have traded Lamar Jackson to the Carolina Panthers, gotten the number 1 pick. They could have gotten any quarterback they wanted in this class. From what I've seen, at least 3 of these guys are going to be better quarterbacks than Lamar actually is. And thus, picking a receiver kind of lands as an automatic. Yeah, he could be a really good player, but it won't really matter if the guy thrown under center can't get him the ball, or if the guy under center is the backup and can't get him the ball. Because say what you will about the rhetoric of Lamar Jackson being a running back, it's pretty much true. The guy got paid because of his legs, not his arm. It baffles me that people can't understand this. And people go back to that MVP year. Yeah, okay, he played great, but again, look at the team now, then versus now. They had like 3 tight ends. They could run a 2 tight end set, 3 tight end set. Just sorts of plays that most teams can't run, so most defenses don't know how to compensate for it. And that's how you end up with 30-plus touchdowns and barely cracking 3,000 yards passing. And the only reason he sniffed MVP and ended up winning it unanimously, as people will never let me forget, is because of his legs. He is a mobile quarterback. He is right-handed Michael Vick. So, now, I'll put a lot of blame on the Ravens' previous offensive coordinator. I think that guy was an absolute moron. You have Mark Andrews, and you're not employing him nearly as much as you should be. That guy should be getting the target volume of guys like Travis Kelce, not 3 touchdowns, 150 yards one week, and then 20 yards on 1 catch the next week. What the fuck's going on there? But before we come back to Zay Flowers, we'll then come over here to the Ravens wide receiver pool, and this is not good. So Flowers is automatically probably, honestly, he might be the best receiver here. And people will go, oh, what about Odell Beckham Jr.? And I'm like, Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't been shit since he was with the Giants. Can we just dispel this myth that OBJ still has something significant left in him? If I'm wrong, but I'm fairly confident based on the last how many fucking years that I'm right. Odell ain't it no more. Then the third best guy is probably either Rashad Bateman or Nelson Aguilar. Take that as you will. So Zay Flowers is automatically coming into a wide receiver room that isn't very good, has a quarterback that isn't an accomplished passer, and tends to miss the last third of the season these days. So he'll probably have to get to know Tyler Huntley as well. This is a lot for a young receiver. This is not good for a team. And this is why I will continue to say that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to sleepwalk this division unless something crazy happens like Deshaun Watson throws for 5,000 yards. So, come over to the stat line, and Zay Flowers was pretty good in college. So, it's not the most gaudy stat line I've ever seen for a receiver out of college, but considering he's coming out of Boston College, they don't usually produce that many players that I'm aware of. That looks pretty good. So we'll now come over here and take a look at some highlights. And this is another thing that can kind of skew my view of players. I'm not working with entire game film here. I'm working on their best plays. So I'm effectively getting the idea of what's the best that they could be. And this is obviously going to make me overlook a lot of hidden gems. It'll make me overhype a lot of guys that suck, but it'll also every so often clue me into the hidden gem in the rough. Guys like Gardner Minshew that shouldn't have been very good in the NFL, but probably would be starters if not for circumstances. Or guys that do just break out of nowhere. So, here we go. Zay Flowers. Tonight I'm gonna party with the people that believe. Up top. 3rd and 2, they can get a first. Not the best angle, but that's because our cameras work. Out of the edge to the end zone. Touchdown, Zay Flowers for the Eagles. Good little reverse move. Do like to see guys that don't trip doing that.
Kovic now, pressure coming. He got rid of it though, trying to get it to Zay downfield. What a catch! Touchdown!
Risky throw, but that's
in double coverage.
That is what a quarterback can do when he is comfortable with a receiver. And
just threw the ball up to Zay.
This is kind of why the run-on receivers really hurt me. The Patriots need one bad.
Angling toward the end zone, spinning out of a tackle. What a drive for a touchdown! Just drove his body into the end zone.
Good little move, but 3 guys should make that tackle.
And now you know why he is the most electrifying wide receiver in the ACC.
And taking effect here, BC with a football. Jurkovec wants to go long, going deep for Flowers, and he makes the catch. And he gets beyond.
That should be a touchdown, but that is on the quarterback. Underthrown ball.
A 50-yard reception.
Yeah, and BC just goes max protection, hard play action.
If he hits that in stride, that's a touchdown.
Second down and 21. Jurkovec has all kinds of time to throw. He's got Zay wide open. Catches it at the 18. Now he's looking for blocks. He's going to get him. And Zay Flowers is going to score. 61 yards.
I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
Good third down back and catch the ball out of the backfield. Stays in the block. Now he comes out in the flat. Jurkovec trying to go downfield, though. There's Zay at the 10. Inside the 5, he'll score once again.
Flowers back on the field. Pressure comes. Flowers underneath, across the middle, and Flowers down the sideline for a touchdown. He is electric.
He seems to be a reasonably good route guy. That's good utility that the Ravens could sorely use.
Second down and 10, pressure coming, gets it to Flowers in the end zone behind his shoulder, and he makes a great catch.
Wow, how did he catch that? I was about to say, man, that's a great coverage by Max Melton, but beautiful concentration by Zay Flowers, and that's the first.
But now it's 2nd and 17 for BC, and Phil Jurkovec loads this one up, cuts it loose inside the 15.
Yeah, a reasonable amount of strength for a little guy.
Goal line for the touchdown. Flowers took the defender into the end zone with him. 51 yards for BC.
Big game in Miami 2 weeks ago where they forced 8 turnovers, a program record. But now BC knocking on the door from the 2. Flowers hopping around in motion. He gets the pass, touchdown. Zay Flowers. Boy, he was wide open. From 2 yards away, his 7th touchdown reception of the year, and BC is on the board.
Moore shows pressure. 4-man rush. Moorhead toward the end zone for a touchdown.
Okay, so I like what I see here. He's got a good bit of speed that I can tell. Seems reasonable enough on routes, and he can beat people in tight coverage. This is essentially the skill set the Ravens need. They just need him to translate it to the NFL. But, as previously mentioned, there's, I think, a lot going against him. I don't think teams are going to quite pay attention to Odell Beckham Jr. over him. They're definitely not going to pay attention to Rashad Bateman or Nelson Aguilar over him. So he's automatically coming in as probably the best receiver in the room. Quarterback problems, a new offensive scheme that may or may not be good. It's a lot of questions in my eyes, and I hope a guy like this does good. It's even when a guy like this goes to a team that I do not like the Baltimore Ravens, I still would like to see them succeed, because that's, it's better for the game to watch for high-end talents to, pan out. So next up, we're going to have linebacker Trenton Simpson. And I will say that, at least initial impressions based on what I've seen of the roster, this is probably a good selection. The Ravens do not look like they're doing so hot at outside linebacker or defensive end. So this could be one of those decent stopgap picks already. I'm seeing 13 sacks over 3 years. That's better production than most of these guys the Ravens have in almost 10. So the stat line suggests more of an outside linebacker, defensive end sort. Good tackle for loss numbers in his second year. Not great sack numbers, but a little more serviceable than the ones I got, like I said. So, other than that, there's not really much that stands out in the stat line to me, so we'll come over here and go on ahead to the second player of this Ravens class.
Pick the screen.
Here comes a 5-man rush. Stepping up, getting out of the pocket, Garcia. Gets waffled back at the 36-yard line.
Good speed burst to nail the quarterback.
Trenton Simpson buries him. And now Miami down by...
Smart by the quarterback to just eat the sack, too.
Handed it off to Green, who got dropped for a loss. Behind the line of scrimmage by Trenton Simpson, another Charlotte native back in his... Today with Andrew McCoob out, Malcolm Green, their starting nickel, not playing. The ball is out, and it goes out of bounds. Ellison was the ball carrier. They'll send it back to the spot of the here. Matt Brown has gone for a lot of fourth downs.
Off the edge.
Flushed by a blitzing linebacker, Jeremiah Trotter. Now yanked down by Trenton Simpson, and they get a flag, likely for a horse collar.
Yeah, that's poor placing of hands.
Up. Here comes the blind side, and the ball pops out.
Unblocked sacks are always fun.
Untouched.
I like watching those.
It up. Clemson has it with under 4 minutes to go.
Z on the bottom of your screen.
Drop back in coverage a little
Sims
there.
takes off, makes a move.
Comes up, get the tackle. Good job.
That was Trenton Simpson. Boy, we've seen him.
From the 3, first and goal. Pressure brought. And Green is in trouble and dropped. Back at the 7-yard line by Trenton Simpson.
Is right in the wheelhouse for Clemson.
They bring pressure. Hartman given some time, looking for the tight end. And it's batted around and incomplete. They have an excellent tight end in Blake Whiteheart. Crowd thought there was pass interference.
They took Gissinger, the blocking tight end, out. They put 3 to the right. Here's the throw and catch to Shiflett, and that goes nowhere.
Pride's played a lot of snaps in recent weeks. Jacobin has some running room. And that goes away quickly as he's run down by Trenton Simpson.
Overall, yeah, this is another selection I like, mostly because from having a little look at the roster already, the Ravens don't really look like they're exactly set on outside linebacker or defensive end. And it looks to me like this guy can play a bit of both, could be dropped in coverage every now and then, and that could work pretty well for what the Ravens want to do. So I'm a little squeamish because third round, these defensive players that fall in these rounds are a bit hit and miss for me. There have been ones that I've overlooked, overhyped, hit right on the nail. It's it's really a crapshoot in these mid-rounds if these guys are going to develop or not, but from initial impressions, I would say that we'll probably at least be seeing Trenton Simpson on the field at least a bit this year, and we'll see how he does. But right now, looks like a good pick. Whether it remains a good pick, that remains to be seen. So, next up, we have defensive end Tavius Robinson. And this is a defensive end, though Wikipedia did say that they're probably shifting this one to linebacker. But I'm not entirely sure of that, so take that with a grain of salt, too. So, this one, yeah, about the same story. The sort of linebacker, defensive end production that I'm used to seeing from these positions. Tackle for loss, decent but not great. Sacks, about the same. Put up a interesting amount of forced fumbles in his last year after none the first two, so we'll come back over to YouTube and go for Tavius Robinson. Let's see how this one goes.
Yes, he is. He Johnson, and
one of those two.
Sack back at the 30.
Looked across the middle. Pressure. Falls out. Oh.
Four-man rush. Finley. He is going to go down. Wrapped up again by Tavius Robinson.
And then Robinson's on the inside. Focus on this move right here. That leftover swim. They've got the athlete on the inside because they took the...
Third down and very long. Chuck's going to buy some time. Backside pressure, the ball down. Who has it? About 3 different scrums. It was Robinson.
Robinson gets it out, and it's just Chuck holding it a little bit too long. When you start to feel the pressure, that ball's got to be
Might have underestimated the volume bit again.
That way you save the possession, and you punt the football on fourth down.
Young has it batted down to the line. Fourth down. Tavius Robinson.
And then big 95, Tavius Robinson can't get there, but his hand does.
Yep.
Good swat.
Your paws in the air, and that was right on it.
Now we'll see if this Ole Miss running game.
Lettuce. It's a free.
Vanderbilt with their second possession, including Kentucky and Alabama, 2 really good defenses.
Clock winding down. Rogers fumbles the ball. Ole Miss recovers.
Good job to be in the right place at the right time there. Sometimes it just bounces right through you.
Exactly what we're talking about, ball security, right? They had to find a way to get the ball out. And there it is. There it is right there. Trey Brown. Rogers isn't able to really secure the football. It's wet conditions out there.
Simplify your...
So, from what limited bit is here, I view this one as a bit more of a project sort of player. We might see a bit of him because, as I've mentioned a couple times, the Ravens' defensive line, outside linebacker spots, they're not really looking like they're solid. So, it's a bit depending on what they want to do, what personnel packages they want to roll with, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit less of Robinson than Simpson. So that'll move us along to the next player, cornerback Q Blue Kelly. That is a fun name. I am rooting for this guy pretty much just because of his name. So, let's see here. Well, there's something I don't like seeing. High pass deflections, low interceptions. That is something that I absolutely detest seeing. It's not a killer, but it's one of those things that, you're in the NFL, and these things can come down to one play sometimes, and if you've got a guy that can't make that play, then you're going to lose. It's that simple. But sometimes these guys work on their hands, sometimes they're just good at coverage. And he will have a chance because the Ravens' secondary is another spot of weakness I observe. They've got a lot of guys that can play, but not a lot of guys that can play well. And if you really want to contest this, look at last season. Look how many leads the Ravens blew. Half of that goes on Lamar Jackson turning into a potato in the fourth quarter a lot of the time, and Tyler Huntley not being any better. And on the other hand, you then have the defense just completely throwing games down the drain. And some people might want to say, well, the last time they played the Patriots, the only reason they beat us is because they got lucky on turnovers. But we'll go over here now and take a little bit of a look at the highlight, adjust the volume a little bit so that I can be heard over the video.
Pressure coming again. Easton off his back foot into single coverage. Ripped off.
There's the traditional reason you don't throw off the back foot. There are still guys that can't do it.
Creates havoc on the...
He goes to the end zone, and it is intercepted, but quarterbacks in the conference, if not the nation.
That is a heck of a play, man. Let's see.
Little curl that's picked off, intercepted. It is Caillou Blue California.
Okay, so his 3 interceptions show that he can catch these things, but it's pretty much got to be on a line right to him. Good deflection.
Final minute and a half of the first half. Otten upended. Ball came out. It's a live ball scooped up by the Cardinal.
It out to the tight end. Otten's got some space. And is that Caillou Blue Kelly?
20. All play action. Morris looks to the end zone. It is incomplete. Odunze.
In the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Brian Kelly had the big pick 6 against USC. It's on it. A lot of hand fighting there, and he does have a hold of the arm. But no flag.
Morse steps up, throws, incomplete.
Defense, they get the big rush from Reed and the nice hands from Kelly. The tree.
Brown in the pocket will throw, and that one is knocked away incomplete.
Yeah, that's the wrong guy. Yeah, they never have before.
Brown in the pocket throws, and it's incomplete. Man, he zipped that one.
He saw that, and he didn't want to float the ball. He knew he...
All over the earth.
Well, I kind of like this one. I'm not at all sure how he's going to do because this is a crowded but not crowded position. You know, you've got a lot of guys to beat, but if you can just play football decently, you can beat them. I'd say that this one's hard for me. It really is hard for me because I don't really expect him to be given much of a chance to play, but he looks like he's got a pretty good ability to stick with receivers, make catches hard. He won't get a lot of interceptions, but he looks like he could be one of those players that, okay, he gets a deflection on a long ball, 4th down, you know, you're getting the ball anyways. So it's one of those types of deals for me. So I'd give him a chance. We might hear the name a little bit with the Ravens in the near future. But it is going to come down to beating a lot of guys. They've got Marlon Humphrey, Rocky Sin, I think Daryl Worley. Most of these other guys labeled as corners have had at least some playing time in their careers, if not for the Ravens themselves. And that kind of stacks the deck. You know, the best ones can beat it, but it is difficult. It is very difficult to pull that off. So we'll now move along to the offensive line picks to close out the class, and this is Malesala Amavelaulu. Hope I got that name right. Gave him my best frickin' stab. This one's playing offensive tackle, and I didn't actually look at the offensive line before they got here, so we'll take a little peek first. And it does look like this probably is a initial depth piece, but still worth looking at. I've said depth piece for a lot of offensive linemen, and they turn into career starters. Shows you what I know about offensive line play. Video quality is not great, but I can't do anything about that on this one. Good job clearing out the hole there, Earl. Okay, so from what I see of those so far, it's a very limited selection of plays, but that's just how it goes for a lot of offensive linemen. It's kind of a weird thing to me that a lot of teams strangely don't seem to have a lot of readily available anything to watch for their offensive line. But that aside, this guy looks like a bit of a project. He doesn't look quite like he keeps pushing till the end of the play. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not. But he just looks a bit sluggish in a way. I guess you might say that's just kind of what I'm seeing here. It's very iffy to me. So this is one of those picks that's just, I can see why they take a flyer out. He looks like there is something to coach here, but that's a pretty big if from the Ravens. I don't regard their coaching staff in the highest opinions. I've long hated their head coach. The guy is a whiner, and most Patriots fans, I'd say, would agree with me. Because usually when he starts crying, it's about us. But this pick, not much to see here. We might see in a couple of years, but I don't really think so. I think this is just kind of a depth chart stuffer. And that brings us to the final selection, guard Andrew Voorhees. And we'll go back down, see what the Ravens got going at guard. Ben Cleveland, Kevin Zeitler. I think they probably shift some of these guys around maybe. So this is probably another depth chart stuffer, at least for the immediate future. So we're going to go over here, and this is actually kind of surprising to me. Sometimes you get lucky, you get a 7th rounder, 6th rounder at this position that actually has a decent channel for highlights and whatnot, highlighting them and letting you know where they are. So here we go. Getting moved a little there. Pretty good control and effort from what I can see here. It's some of the bigger, stronger guys might move him around, but that's something that could probably be coached up. So this is another one I can see why you take the flyer on this guy. This is just very simple. Stash him, see if you can coach him up, and maybe in a year or two, sometimes more, he will end up replacing somebody that either gets too expensive, too old, or too unreliable. So overall, this is I would say about the inverse of the Bengals draft, where they just took the first 2 days, did their business, and then fell asleep. This is basically the opposite. This is realizing that you've still got 4 rounds to draft on day 3, and you should get your goddamn money's worth. And I think they did that. Zay Flowers looks like he'll be a pretty good wide receiver for this team, though he does have a lot to overcome. This offense of the Ravens has problems that not a lot of people want to admit. Trenton Simpson should be on the field in at least some capacity. They pretty much gotta figure out something at those outside linebacker defensive end positions, because I'm not seeing much there. Tavius Robinson looks like the first project, that he'll kind of be the more situational guy this season. If he can excel or not will probably dictate whether or not he hangs around in the league. The final 3, Q Blue Kelly, Laulu, and Andrew Voorhees, all these guys are projects. Kelly has probably the best chance out of any of them because the Ravens secondary usually has some problems with injuries. They usually have some problems with quality play based on the last year or so. And thus, like I said, that gives him probably the best shot out of any of these guys. The offensive linemen, it's these two were basically depth padding, but I do think that with some coaching, Voorhees might end up a starter for this team in the future. We'll see. So, overall, I would give this a low A probability. This has, God damn it, where'd my mouse go? Batteries. Hang on. Get my power in there. So, as I was saying, but yeah, it's they're depth padding, but I think if Voorhees in particular could be a starter eventually. So in terms of grading, I would say that this class looks a little better to me than the Bengals did. So I'd put this in around a B+, A- area. This has a lot of potential to be much worse than that, obviously, and wouldn't honestly surprise me with the Ravens. But it looks pretty good, so that's where I'll put it. B+, A-, somewhere in there. So that is going to be doing it for this video. I believe, I'm not entirely sure. Let's see here. Yes, we will be doing the Steelers next. That should be, I believe, Friday. So, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys in the next video.